Fox News is America's election headquarters. One-time Republican frontrunner Dr. Ben Carson is now downsizing his campaign, cutting staff and resources. Dr. Carson led the Republican national polls very briefly in November and once polled ahead of Donald Trump in Iowa by nearly 10 points. But this week he left Iowa after finishing in 4th place. So how is Dr. Carson planning to increase his chances in New Hampshire next week? Let's ask him. Dr. Ben Carson, Republican candidate for president, joins us now. Obviously, the 4th place finish in Iowa must have hurt you, Doctor. Do you agree?
I was expecting to do better, and certainly all of our ground intelligence and intelligence from others indicated that we were going to do quite a bit better than we did do.
We get into that accusation of dirty tricks from, you say it's the Cruz campaign, right? The Twitter war that erupted in Iowa?
Yes, there was a lot of disinformation that was disseminated very quickly during the time that the caucuses were going on. And I believe that those had an effect. For instance, at one of them, my wife went. She wasn't scheduled to speak. But one of the Cruz people had spoken just before she got there and told the people that I was dropping out and that they should consider changing their vote. And then my wife showed up, and they saw her and they wanted her to speak, and she came and disabused them of that notion. They were extremely happy, standing ovation for her, and we won that precinct. You know, I don't accept that that those things don't make a difference, but I think what's really important, I don't think you can go back and redo the caucus. I'm not calling for that. But I am calling for people to do what's right as opposed to what's legal. There's been a lot of talk about this is illegal. It doesn't matter whether it's legal or not. It matters whether it's right. Is that truly the right thing to do?
It started when Chris Moody from CNN tweeted this at just after 7 p.m. on the night of the Iowa caucuses. He wrote, Carson won't go to New Hampshire, South Carolina, but instead will head home to Florida for some R&R. He'll be in D.C. for the National Prayer Breakfast. That was then retweeted by Congressman Steve King, who is a Cruz supporter. He said, skipping New Hampshire and South Carolina is the equivalent of suspending. Too bad this information won't get to all caucus goers. And then wrote, Carson looks like he is out. Iowans need to know before they vote. Most will go to Cruz, I hope. Well, he then apologized for that the next day after a fashion, saying, I respect Ben Carson and regret any miscommunication. Perhaps Carson supporters are unaware of the CNN story. So he goes back to the CNN story that apparently launched it all. Too late if it affected your vote. Go ahead.
Right. There's plenty of blame to go around, but again, it comes back to what is the right thing to do. Why be so anxious to go out and spread a rumor like that for which you have no confirmation when you have the ability to pick up the phone? Our campaigns are easily in communication with each other. That would not have been, it would have taken seconds to do that. So I think that there were people who obviously knew exactly what they're doing, and they had an intent on, you know, taking votes that were going to be going to me. But, you know, it's water under the bridge. I agree. But I do believe that people ought to take note. You know, one of the reasons that I got into this race is because, like many others, I'm sick and tired of the dishonesty, the deceit, the what difference does it make anyway kind of attitude that has allowed us to get to this point. Most people don't trust the government anymore. Yeah. It shouldn't be like that in America.
We will be back with Dr. Ben Carson as Donald Trump and Ted Cruz are making accusations. More in a moment. Back now with Republican presidential candidate Dr. Ben Carson amid reports his campaign is running low on cash after a 4th place finish in Iowa and low poll numbers in New Hampshire. Meanwhile, Carson accuses Iowa winner Ted Cruz of playing dirty in a bid for his voters, for using a CNN story on his travel to Florida to suggest that Dr. Carson quit the race. Cruz later apologized to Carson for the statement, but now Donald Trump is sounding off, calling the move fraud. Listen.
Ben did go to Florida instead of New Hampshire or South Carolina. It is, in fact, something that voters found relevant. I will praise Ben. I will praise his character. That's the only place I'm going. And there's a reason Donald Trump wants to focus on that. Because he wants a circuit sideshow, and he knows all the folks in the media will happily oblige.
What he did to Dr. Ben Carson, a very good person, where he said he left the race, vote for us. I think that's something that is really very serious.
We are back with Dr. Ben Carson. The official statement about the reorganization of your campaign says that this is a continuation of what began in January. But obviously, if you had finished higher in Iowa, and perhaps this whole Ted Cruz Twitter thing may have been a factor in that, would you be facing the fundraising issues that you're facing now?
Yes, this was something that we had planned on anyway. When I did a deep dive a couple of months ago, there were some irregularities that were found, some inefficiencies that were found, and those have to be addressed. It's the same kind of thing that I would do as president. You know, there's a lot of money being wasted, a lot of inefficiency in the government, and just because you have the funds to continue that inefficiency doesn't mean that you should do it.
So do you think that you will be able to continue the campaign beyond New Hampshire?
We will be able to continue the campaign right until Cleveland.
So you're expecting...
But you have to... But obviously, you always make appropriate adjustments to make sure that you can accomplish your goal.
You think that voters will realize and respect what you're doing, in other words, by reassigning resources, reallocating resources within your campaign?
I would hope people would recognize that trying to create efficiency is something that is a characteristic that they would like to see in their leaders. The other thing I would emphasize is, you know, this is similar to a baseball game. You know, American pastime, baseball. We don't generally call the game after the second inning. You usually take it all the way through to the ninth inning. I think we're going to see some real changes by the time the ninth inning rolls around.
It was 3 years ago at the National Prayer Breakfast that you came to national attention. Some would say you essentially upbraided or criticized President Obama at that breakfast. There was another one this morning. He urged tolerance among all faiths. Anything new to say to the president today?
Well, you know, I was there, and, you know, those are the right words. Absolutely, we should be tolerant. But always remember that tolerance goes around in a circle. It doesn't just go in one direction. So everybody must be tolerant of everybody else. We need to be tolerant of every religion, including Christians. On many college campuses, you know, when they start having discussions and somebody brings up Jesus Christ, people act like maybe that's a hateful speech. That doesn't include tolerance.
Dr. Ben Carson, candidate for president on the Republican side. Good to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you.